Hello, this is Elliot coming to you with the Cape Cod Chronicle on Thursday, October 3rd. In today's news, the Oktoberfest entry fee has been dropped. After pushback, donations will be sought instead by Tim Wood. With more entertainment and activities planned for this year's Oktoberfest, Chamber of Commerce and Merchants Association officials had hoped to charge a $5 entry fee to help cover the increased costs. These hopes were dashed, however, after pushback from both residents and town officials. While the Select Board did not take a vote following the lengthy discussion of its September 24th meeting, position was clear: collect voluntary donations and don't charge an entry fee. It's not perfect, but I think it solves everybody's problem, said Chair Michael Schell. About 100 people had paid the $5 fee online, said Chamber Board member Kristen Muller. All have been offered the option of a refund or converting the payment into a donation, she said in an email after last week's meeting. Scheduled for October 19th at both the Kate Gould Park and the town office's parking lot, Oktoberfest will feature more than half a dozen bands, vendors, beer, food trucks, and kids' activities. In the past, the event has been free. The Chamber's Oktoberfest webpage previously cited a $5 admission fee for those 13 years of age and older, but it has since been changed to reflect the decision to make the event free for everyone and that a suggested donation would be appreciated. It isn't unheard of for there to be a fee for events taking place on town property. The Taste of Chatham, for instance, is held at Chase Park, with attendees paying a fee to enter a tent. The rest of the park remains open to the public during the event, however. Other events accept donations or do not charge a fee. First night activities on town property are generally button-free, and the Creative Arts Center Festival of the Arts in Chase Park has no admission charge, with donations accepted at the park entrance. The summer Cape Cod Shakespeare in Chatham in Cape Gould Park is free. Charging a fee to enter Cape Gould Park was problematic in the eyes of some because, in her will donating the land in the town, Kate Gould stipulated that no business should occur there. The Chamber and Merchants plan had been to close off Main Street entrance to the park and funnel attendees to the parking lot off Chatham Bars Avenue, which is not subject to the will, where admission bracelets would be sold. Organizers had hoped to pre-sell bracelet online to avoid lines, Mueller said at the Select Board meeting. The event has expanded significantly this year, she said, with rented stages and hired bands bumping the budget between $10,000 and $20,000. Sponsorship from local businesses help offset costs, but the entry fee was seen as a way to help break even, with any leftover funds donated to a local charity, she said. This is not a moneymaker, Mueller said. The fee is not a money grab. It's about controlling entry and exit on a really large event. Town Council opined that the will's prohibition did not preclude the entry fee, Schell said, but the larger question was whether it was appropriate to charge a fee at all. He said he'd heard from about 20 residents and was troubled by their concerns. Select Board member Jeffrey Dykes said he had taken aback when he read about the $5 admission fee. I don't think we ought to be charging $5 admission to Oktoberfest, he said, which is not in the spirit of the event. He strongly suggested a voluntary donation rather than a mandatory entry fee. The Select Board initially granted permission for the organization to hold Oktoberfest on town property in May. At the time, there was no intention of an entry fee. Other Cape events have even higher entry fees, said Merchants. Board member Barry DeSillitz. The Wellfleet Oyster Festival charges $33, he said, and the Bass River Festival $30. Their Oktoberfest fee was set lower simply because we're trying to cover our costs, Mueller said. The intent of Oktoberfest, she said, is to draw people to town during the off-season when businesses are trying to make that last little bit of money before everything shuts down for the winter. It's about commerce. It's about celebrating with the locals. Select Board member Dean DeCastro said he was troubled that people would be charged to enter a public park. Eileen Auer, a park commissioner for 21 years, noted the prohibition against doing business in the park and said she was concerned that the town ignored Kate Gould's will. People would no longer donate land to the town. John Helgren said he thought charging the fee would reduce attendance. Elaine Gibbs said there's no guarantee that collecting fees will result in the donation of surplus funds to charity. Closing off the park to the general public for the entire day, she added, was totally inappropriate. The Chamber and merchants accepted the Select Board's wishes and are moving forward. We're asking for donations rather than charging an entrance fee. Mueller said in an email, depending on how the event goes with donations, it may be scaled back next year, she told the Select Board. Nauset superintendent to retire in June. School committee set to be in search for replacement by Ryan Bray. Nauset school superintendent Brooke Clenchey will retire at the end of the current school year. Clenchey, who took the superintendent post on an interim basis in April 2021, was hired to lead the district on a permanent basis the following year. It is in the final year of her 3-year contract with the school district. She confirmed her plans in an email to the Chronicle yet Sunday, saying she informed staff and parents of her decision last week. I wanted to signal my intent to retire early to allow Nauset leadership ample time to find a superintendent who will continue moving the district to new levels of excellence, utilizing the district's vision and strategic plan, she said. Clenchey's retirement will bring to a close a career in education spanning more than 40 years, including more than 20 years as a school superintendent. She formerly led the Ashland, Wincherdon, and Neshoba school districts in Massachusetts, and also served the school as superintendent in Washburn, Maine. Clenchey also was a teacher and administrator in Canada and worked for the Massachusetts Department of Education and Secondary Education from 2014 to 16. I have absolutely and thoroughly enjoyed each stage of my career, she said in her email. Judith Schumacher, chair of the Nauset Regional School Committee, said Clenchey will be greatly missed and credited her efforts to unify the district's town and school. We're 7 separate school buildings, she said, but she has made this a unit. She's made this a working unit and made people feel that they were part of the Nauset Public Schools. Chris Easley of the Regional School Committee noted the challenges that came with leading a new school district in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. It's thrown a wrench into the standards of what quality education was, he said. It required a lot of extra work from everyone involved, particularly superintendents. What do we do for the pandemic? We're kind of in virgin territory. But he said Clenchey rose to the occasion and did a fantastic job leading the district, and not just through the pandemic, but through the $169 million campus renovation at Nauset Regional High School, which is 60% complete. You try not to be putting out fires, Easley said. You're trying to have a plan and work forward. But with a building to protect project, you often get fires that keep coming at you. This happens, that happens. It takes an incredible amount of time. So she not only steered the school system into the post-pandemic, but she also steered the largest school building project in her town ever. Schumacher said Clenchey has also excelled at the less visible parts of her job, including instituting systems and policies that have set Nauset District up for success after her departure. The new superintendent will inherit a tidy house, a well-trimmed ship, she said, and that allows for us to focus on other things. Clenchey called it an honor and a privilege to lead the Nauset District for the past 3.5 years. Nauset Public Schools is an amazing school district filled with incredible staff and administration, she said. The students represent the very best. I am filled with gratitude to have worked with the 4 communities, Eastham, Wellfleet, Brewster, and Orleans, communities who truly value and understand the importance and legacy of education. Looking ahead, Schumacher said an 8-member search committee will be formed later this month to help guide the process of hiring Clenchey's successor. A search firm will also be hired to assist the committee in identifying a new superintendent, she said. Schumacher said that the position could be advertised by November in hopes of hiring a new superintendent sometime this spring. But she said she would like to see someone in the role who understands the tremendous systems that are currently work in the Nauset, but who also has a vision for how to steer the district into the future. What exactly that means, I don't know, she said. It's hard to say. I just hope you know it when you can see it. Page 2. The Spotlight on Lower Cape Personalities and Visionaries by Jane Dubzinski. By day, Stephen Smith is an elbow deep in scientific research, studying the diverse plant species that grow along our local coastlines, salt marshes, and ponds. As a head plant ecologist for the Cape Cod National Seashore, Smith's main mission is twofold: maintain the beauty of those picture-perfect natural spaces, but at the same time, protect them from the damaging effects of climate change, invasive growth, human intervention. It's a tough job, and he knows it. That's why at night, Smith, a Harwich resident, puts down the data and picks up the guitar, cutting loose with his band, Just Like That, or JTL for short. Every weekend, Smith and JTL bring their signature rock and roll dance tune to live music venues across the Cape, including Pier 37 Boathouse in Falmouth, Sundancers in West Dennis, among many others. It's the perfect balance for Smith, who readily admits his rock star persona is fun, albeit much-needed escape from the noisy static of everyday life. Anything that can take me away from the rest of the world that's really important to me, because I don't like to spend so much time in my own head, he chuckles. It could be dangerous. Jokes aside, that noggin of his, what's saving our coastal salt marshes from the damaging effects of rising sea levels and the invasion of non-native species, like the purple loosestrife plant and the southern pine beetle. Without Smith's expertise, those beautiful salt marshes would be on the fast track to ultimate devastation. Plus, the economic impact would be equally brutal. Each year, nearly 4 million people visit the Cape Cod National Seashore, hoping to get a first-hand glimpse of our pristine beaches and wetlands. Without a protection plan in place, though, there won't be anything left for these visitors to see. And while locals might enjoy the dwindling numbers of tourists, what they won't like is the decreased tax revenues from fewer tourists. Take wages, for example. In 2022, Cape Cod tourism supported around 10,100 jobs in Barnstable County, generating $378 million in wages. To say our salt marshes are kind of a big deal, well, that would be an understatement. It's why Smith is so passionate about his work. I'm in one of the nicest offices you can imagine. I love the environment. I love Cape Cod, he says. I've just learned so much in over 20 years I've been here. I feel like I now have a level of expertise I can impart to other people, and occasionally I might come up with a few good ideas to help. In fact, he already has, alongside a team of scientists. Smith has been developing and implementing long-term ecosystem monitoring protocols to track the health and well-being of the seashore salt marshes. In doing so, he hopes to pinpoint how exactly these ecosystems evolve in order to make them more resilient to the environment and human impact. The National Park Service has a dual mission, he says. We've tasked with providing these great outdoor environments, these beautiful gems for the public, but we also have to preserve that environment for the future generations. My team and I are trying our best to either prolong the lifespan of the ecosystems or make them as resilient as possible to what we know is coming. Smith knows a thing or two about resilience. It's what got him through those 5 months of COVID quarantine, channeling his focus on an old pastime, the guitar. When the pandemic hit, I didn't want to waste my time feeling isolated and depressed while whiling away doing nothing. So I told myself I'm going to get really, really into my guitar and see how good I can get. He got so good, in fact, that he parlayed his skills to the next level, forming a musical duo with his wife, Wendy. Known as Northern Lights, the two travel across the Cape performing blues, funk, and classic rock covers at local events, like Dennis Festival Days and Port Summer Nights in Harwichport. Shortly after forming Northern Lights, Smith joined up with the gang from Just Like That, rounding out the band's rhythm section with his electric guitar. When I'm playing music, I'm just in the moment, and that's it. There's no past, no future, no worries. It's a good place to be. Conservationists question pond property housing plan. Threatens water resources, they say. By Alan Pollock. The Brewster Ponds Coalition and the Brewster's Conservation Trust are calling on town officials to review all other potential locations for creating housing before moving ahead with plans to build units on the Sea Camp's pond property. The trustees of the two groups issued a joint resolution which delivered to the town hall last week. They outlined their concerns to the Sea Camp's advisory committee Monday and will bring the resolution to the select board shortly. Conservation Trust President Charlie Sumner said that the resolution was made out of concern for potential negative impacts on the community's water resources. In May, voters strongly supported the development plans for both former Sea Camp parcels, including the plan to reserve 85% of the 55-acre pond properties as an open space, using the remaining 15%, about 10 acres, to build up to 44 units of affordable and attainable housing. At the time, some raised concerns about developing any of the land, which is in a recharge area for public water supplies and which feeds groundwater to Long Pond and Herring River watershed. As part of the town's integrated water resources management plan, any houses built on the pond property would be connected to a neighborhood septic system designed to minimize or eliminate the flow of nutrients into the groundwater. The resolution notes that the Brewster Conservation Trust and the Brewster Ponds Coalition recognize the need for affordable and attainable housing in Brewster and support action to develop such housing. But they believe that such housing should be located at the most advantageous locations considering all relevant factors. Those factors include the number of units that can be built and time it takes to do so, the accessibility of the property, its environmental sensitivity, and realistic costs to achieve substantial and environmental benefits if housing is to be built on undeveloped land in environmentally sensitive areas. According to the town's water resources plan, it would cost about $953,000 to build a cluster septic system serving the new housing development and up to 18 nearby homes, providing enough nitrogen reduction to meet the water waste targets for the area. While doing so would satisfy the requirements of the Herring River watershed permit, this plan alone will not reduce the amount of nitrogen currently flowing into Long Pond, or address phosphorus, the primary nutrient in herring ponds, or address chemicals of emerging concern which might threaten our drinking waters, said Susan Bridges, president of the Brewster Ponds Coalition. The resolution notes that, given the environmental sensitivity of the pond property, the town has committed to protecting the groundwater there in a way that results in substantial net positive environmental impact on the water quality in Long Pond, Herring River, and Pleasant Bay watersheds. The groups called for the town to carry out a feasibility study for housing locations, including but not limited to the pond property, before making a final decision on the pond property housing development. We believe such a study is needed to ensure the current plans will not pose a long-term and difficult-to-resolve threat to our water resources, Sumner said. Bridges said the groups are serious about wanting to work with the town to help develop plans that both provide housing and protect our water resources. Cultural Council seeks to build connections. Grant application period ends soon. By Alan Pollock. Whether or not a Brewster Cultural District is someday in the cards, the town's Cultural Council is looking to strengthen collaboration between artists and other related groups and activities to deepen the town's already rich cultural scene. Giving a report to the Select Board last month, Brewster Cultural Council Chair Clara O'Connell Rice said her group has a number of goals related to community collaboration. That sort of leads to an issue that we're touching on, which is, do we want to become a cultural district, she said. But more importantly, whatever that takes, no matter what we do, or what we end up being or not being, is about the community and about collaborating with other people. Using state and local funds, the Council issues grants to artists, writers, musicians each year to enrich the town's cultural offerings, and more money is available this year than last year, when it issued 18 grants averaging around $250 each, O'Connor Rice said. With an October 16 deadline looming for this year's applications, we're really trying to reach out to people that are artists of all type. Culture is very broadly defined, that are in Brewster or in the surrounding communities, she said. The Cultural Council is hosting a third of 3 grant writing workshops on October 8th to 5th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. at the Brewster Ladies Library, and encouraging any potential applicants to stop by. The council issued a survey asking citizens what sort of projects they would like to help fund. We never asked the question of, well, what do you think culture in a community is, O'Connor Rice said. We want to begin to have some small conversation around that. Working in small groups, the council will be reaching out to various civic groups and organizations to talk about what the culture of the town is, what it means historically to them, what the community character is, she said. For instance, the Brewster Conservation Trust collaborates with area writers, providing them access to the John Hay Studio as a creative workspace. And there is potential for poetry readings on conservation land. Collaboration involves looking beyond traditional artists to include what the state defines as cultural assets, which will be important to gather if we want this to be a cultural district. But it's just as important for people to understand, well, what does Brewster have? And if you start to drive down 6A, you will see we have quite a bit, O'Connor Rice said. The Cultural Council has opened conversations with the volunteers who run the Stony Brook Gristmill and with the Council on Aging. They've also reached out to the schools to explain the simple grant application process. We're trying to get people excited about working together on this, whether it's, dare I say it, putting a mural on the Department of Natural Resources wall, which we know is public art, will have to go through a lot of process, no question, or doing poetry readings, she said. The council is considering working on a friendship-giving celebration at the Arts Center or former dining hall at the Seacamps Bay property, for instance. Culinary arts was a big thing that people wanted, and we know we have some really great chefs in town, O'Connor Rice said. Often, finding appropriate venues for activities like those is the biggest challenge. The council was interested in hosting a Porch Fest musical event like those in other towns, but struggled with the location. We're thinking of having something that we're calling small hall concerts, she said, utilizing smaller public spaces, but also venues in business or churches. As a group, we're pretty excited, she said. So far, there's no movement from the state to create a cultural district in Brewster, O'Connor Rice said. While the Cultural Council is about enriching the town's cultural life, the cultural district goal is more around attracting artists and cultural enterprises, encouraging businesses and job development. It's got more of an economic focus, which we might be interested in at some point, O'Connor Rice said. But right now, I think what we really want to do is enrich the cultural life of the town in a way that involves more people and uses more different spaces. Select Board member Amanda Bebrin said, it's wise to create a database of those cultural assets, if not to pave the way for a district, than to produce a directory for residents and visitors. We have the Chamber of Commerce to talk about what's great for business in Brewster, but I think it's a totally natural foil for cultural sake, she said. O'Connor Rice agreed, saying that such a listing could translate into a map of where artists are pretty easily. The Cultural Council will continue the discussion in its next meeting on October 14th at 5 p.m. in Town Hall. Hinckley's Pond Herring River Headwaters Restoration Plan okayed by Liam Galvin. The Conservation Committee has approved the eco-restoration project for the Hinckley's Pond Herring River Headwaters. Most of the work will be concentrated around the fallow Jenkins Cranberry Bogs along Pleasant Lake Avenue and Headwaters Drive. The goals of the project, proposed by the Harwich Conservation Trust, HCT, are to improve water quality through the nutrient removal process that occurs in healthy wetland habitats, enhancing the habitat for aquatic and wetland organisms and expanding ecological diversity. HCT has received $1.6 million grant from the National Oceanic and Atmosphere Administration, NOAA, along with other grants to help fund the project. The eco-restoration will occur in 2 bog areas along the edge of Hinckley's Pond, HCT, which filed notice of intent with the Conservation Commission that owns the Jenkins Bogs, where work will be conducted on 19 acres. The Warner Bog, consisting of 11 acres on the northwest side of the pond owned by the Brown family, will also be returned to its natural state. The project will be similar to the work that took place this past year at the Robert F. Smith Colebrook Preserve off Bank Street, said Nick Nelson, Regional Director of Interflu, the environmental consultation firm that oversaw the Colebrook restoration, is working on the Hinckley's Pond Herring River project. Initially, there was some disruption to wildlife in Colebrook, but wildlife is doing wonderfully now, said Nelson, which HCT's Colebrook Eco Restoration Project nearly completed, and trails there to reopen later this fall. We've learned firsthand how to complete these projects from start to finish, said HCT Executive Director Michael Latch. With our project partners, we'll apply that knowledge to the Hinkley Pond's Herring River Headwaters project to benefit pond health, restore wetlands, improve wildlife habitats, and enhance the visitor experience. HCT has been working on the design and permitting for the project since 2021. The trust first went before the Commission in May, and adjustments have been made since that time, including the removal of a 1.4-acre pond that was earlier planned to be established at the Jenkins Bogs. Commission members raised concerns about the potential for that water body to suffer from depleted oxygen in the summer heat. The plan for the bogs called for changing the microtopography by turning over the surface of the bogs, removing sand, and filling in the ditches. Those locations will be planted with white cedar trees and simple shrub fens to create wetlands, which will serve to remove nitrogen. The pump house on the west side of the Cape Cod Rail Trail, which runs between the bogs and Hinkley Ponds, will be removed and access enhanced, including ramps from the trail to the pond and a handicap-accessible observation platform. A culvert between the bogs and the pond will also be removed and a dirt road rendered usable. A trail will be created around the bogs and a couple of parking spaces added. About a year ago, Latch said, the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, APCC, approached HCT with the idea of combining several Cape-based eco-restoration projects into a single grant application to the NOAA's Transformational Habitat Restoration and Coastal Resilience Grant Program. HCT welcomed the partnership and has been grateful to work with APCC, said Latch. The NOAA grants includes $1.6 million to complete the restoration of 30 acres of wetland to increase biodiversity, restore about 500 feet of pond habitat that helps migratory river herring, and creates wheelchair-accessible trails opposite Cape Tech, said Latch. In addition, HCT has applied for and received grant approval from Restore America's Estuary Southern New England Program, $146,000, and National Estuary Program, $250,000, and the State Mass Trails Program, $100,000. HCT is also partnering with the Brown family to rewild their bog, Latch said. HCT hopes the restoration will serve as an outdoor classroom for Cape Tech students to learn about the ecological restoration. Innovative eco-restoration partnership create educational opportunities for local students who represent the next generation of environmental decision makers, said Latch. To the extent that Harwich is having to spend more time addressing water quality issues, the more we're realizing the importance of the Herring River watershed and of all the ponds feeding into it. Long, Seymour, and Hinkley Ponds, said HCT President Tom Evans, our protection of them will be critical to Harwich's water quality going forward, and the NOAA recognizes led to this grant approval, which underlines the importance of what we're doing. Conservation Administrator Amy Osowski said comments from the Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Program will be part of the order of conditions, including requiring an eastern box turtle plan for protecting at the water bog. The State Division of Marine Fisheries also said work restriction periods to protect migrating herring during the migratory periods from March 15th to June 30th and September 1st to November 15th. Today's obituaries. Sylvia Melanie Hand Pott passed away peacefully surrounded by her 4 children and her extended family on June 23rd at the age of 93. Sylvia was known for her joyful spirit, her kind heart, an ardent appreciation of the natural world, and an enduring love for music and singing. Central to her many years on this earth were a marriage and family, many close friendships, and an overall zeal for living. Not slowing down even after a recent cancer diagnosis, she enthusiastically went through with a planned trip to Oregon to visit family, returning home in late May with smiles and cherished memories. Sylvia Hand was born on March 7, 1931, to parents David Hand and Eleanor Foote Hand in Germany, where her father had a research fellowship at the University of Heidelberg. Returning to the U.S. when she was 3, Sylvia grew up in Scarsdale, Ithaca, and Geneva, New York, in a family that prized education and sailing. Her love for the sea led to a love for swimming. She spent her summers between years at Swarthmore College as a counselor and a swimming teacher at summer camps on Cape Cod. After college, Sylvia met her husband-to-be, Gordon Pott, whose parents lived next door to Sylvia's aunt and uncle in Summit, New Jersey. Sylvia went on to earn a master's degree in early childhood education from Cornell University, which led to a part-time career and a number of early childhood teaching and other educational related posts. Sylvia and Gordon married in 1955, eventually settling in Summit to raise a family of 4 children. Feeling the lure of coastal living, Sylvia and Gordon moved to Orleans in 1995, not far from the site of Sylvia's old summer camp on Crystal Lake. Sylvia's nearly 30 years on the Cape were filled with visits from children and grandchildren, the fostering of many dear friendships, playing tennis in the summer and paddle teams in the winter, swimming nearly every day from May through October in lakes, the bay, the ocean, volunteering when her beloved golden retriever as a canine ambassador, taking courses at the local library, singing with the Notables music group, and performing for nursing homes, participating in the local PEO chapter, being active at the First Congregational Church of Chatham. Her faith in God and love for all people were strongly influenced by her mother's Quaker upbringing and Sylvia's deep connection with various congregations throughout her lifetime. Sylvia was predeceased by her husband in 2016 and her son-in-law, and survived by her children, 7 grandchildren, her brother in Honolulu. A memorial service is planned for October 13th. Daniel J. Desmond, 75, of Chatham, passed away on September 22nd. He was born to the late Joseph and Eleanor Desmond in Boston. Daniel is survived by his loving wife, Denise Desmond, and his son, Scott. Daniel is also survived by his siblings, husband John, and will dearly remembered by his daughter-in-law, his grandchildren, and many nieces, nephews, and dear friends. He is predeceased by his son Corey and siblings Patricia, John, and Richard. Danny had an entrepreneurial spirit and enjoyed a successful business career in the technology industry. He owned and operated a successful data communications consulting company in Waltham for many years. Danny loved boating, fishing, clamming, biking, traveling, gardening, and bird watching. He was often a mentor to many businesses and served as a mentor in life, always willing to offer a hand to others or great life advice. He was a friend to all and made a great difference to so many people's lives. He was loved by his family and friends and will be greatly missed by all. John Robert Bonsher passed away peacefully on September 4th, surrounded by his loved ones. Bob was born on July 28, 1939, in East Orange, New Jersey. Bob graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology with a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering in June of 1962. He then served 3 years in the U.S. Air Force and was discharged with the rank of second lieutenant in April of 1965. After leaving the military, Bob returned to the New Jersey Institute of Technology to complete a master's degree in engineering sciences. Robert and his beloved wife, Frances, were married in 1966 and resided in Roseland, New Jersey. He had a long career in business development, sales, and sales management of technology software that required significant expertise in both the science and the technology. Bob's strength lay in his relationship with his clients and his technical support, and the relationship building between the two, because he realized the value of connections and successful business development. Many of these associations flourished into long-lasting friendships. Bob and Frances enjoyed many years of extensive travel throughout the United States, Europe, and Asia. Bob was also an ardent reader and enthusiastic tennis fan who enjoyed playing as time permitted. In 2006, Bob and Frances relocated to East Orleans. Bob was involved in the Council on Aging Orleans Pond Coalition and made many wonderful friends over the years. He's survived by his wife of 58 years, a sister-in-law, and as a brother-in-law. It is with a heavy heart that we announce the passing of Barry Mitchell on September 22nd at the age of 68. After fighting for 4 months following a devastating stroke, Barry passed away peacefully surrounded by his loving family. He fought to recover but lost his battle with the resulting complications. Born on July 17, 1956, Barry was a true Cape Codder whose love for his lifelong home was evident through his journey. But Barry's heart also belonged to Maine, where he spent many childhood Christmases with his mother's family. To him, Christmas was the best day of the year. These trips to Maine inspired a lifelong love of Christmas that he shared with his family in adulthood, instilling that same joy to the next generation. As a student, Barry attended Barnstable High School and Cape Cod Community College. In high school athletics, he made the school proud by excelling in track and field. And as the lead singer in the school's musicals, he captivated audiences. As a teenager, he spent countless summer days lifeguarding at Calmus Beach and working as a deckhand on the ferry to Nantucket. Some of his favorite memories were the times the captain allowed him to steer the steamship home. These first jobs helped to nurture Barry's deep connection to these shores and surfaced his innate desire to serve and protect people in danger. Barry dedicated 35 years to the Harwich Police Department, rising through the ranks to retire as lieutenant. His commitment to the community was unwavering, serving in a variety of crucial roles, including court officer on the Drug Task Force and a compassionate advocate for survivors of child abuse at Children's Cove. His legacy of service touched many lives and earned him the respect and admiration of his brothers and sister-in-laws in law enforcement, as well as that of the community he loved and protected. Barry's relationship with God brought him peaceful assurance that grew as he aged. Through prayer, praise, and gratitude, he experienced God's presence in palpable ways. He appreciated learning about the Lord through listening to sermons of favorite faith leaders and putting into practice what he discovered. In retirement, Barry found joy in volunteering at the Cape Cod National Seashore. With a wealth of knowledge about Cape history and geography, he became the go-to person for staff and visitors, helping them customize their adventures and discover the beauty of the Cape. Barry had a profound appreciation for life's simple pleasures. He loved cooking at home for Janet, for their children, grandchildren, and friends. He looked forward to his annual birthday trip to Bar Harbor, which was always celebrated with a fresh-from-the-boat lobster roll. Whether he was quietly sitting by the fire pit, reading the latest novel or history book, cheering on the Patriots, or experiencing the rush of NASCAR, Barry was a happy man. A huge fan of country music, Barry enjoyed playing along with his perfected air guitar solos. He cherished walks in the mountains of Maine and along the national seashore here at home, but his favorite place was Saints Landing in Brewster. Barry's love for music and laughter and nature created countless and cherished memories. Barry was charming and gregarious, but he was more than that. He felt at home in all settings and made others feel at home when they were with him. At every restaurant, grocery store, or pit stop on a trip, his ability to engage warmly and kindly with others left him feeling happier for having shared a moment with him. After a long, busy life focused on family, Patricia Duffy Foote did not wake up on Saturday, September 21st. She was in the Harbor Point Memory Care Committee in Centerville on Cape Cod. Pat was the mother of 5, stepmother to 3, grandmother to 15, and great-grandmother to 7. She is a graduate of the University of Vermont. She was married to Robert Duffy, an executive with Honeywell for 28 years, and to Theodore Foote, a public school superintendent, for 40 years. She grew up in Vermont and lived in Schenectady, Mulhouse, Paris, France, Phoenix, Minneapolis, Philadelphia, and finally, Orleans. She's been active in the Brewster Baptist Church and Bucks Harbor Yacht Club. She loved to be cooking and baking, was devoted to her dogs, most recently, Millie and Cricket. Pat was a summer resident of Egermogen, Little Island, Maine, for 40 years. A celebration of keeping up. 50 years on, Orleans Council on Aging continues to evolve, by Ryan Bray. In her 12 years leading the Orleans Council on Aging, Judy Wilson can tell you that a senior center today isn't what it used to be. When I first came in 2012, people would come in wondering where the beds were. Because any center that serves older adults, there must be beds, right? Not quite. In fact, anyone who visits the town senior center on Rock Harbor Road might walk to find yoga, tai chi, and other exercise classes, or perhaps line dancing and Zumba. Today's Council on Aging and senior centers reflect how seniors are more active and in tune with their health than past generations. There's also a growing acceptance of what it means to age, minus many of the negative connotations that have been historically followed getting older. People used to turn 60 and it was like all over the hill in black balloons, Wilson said. It's not that way anymore. To be certain, much has changed and evolved in the realm of senior services since the Council on Aging first started in Orleans 50 years ago. Last week, the Council hosted a week of programs and initiatives and celebrations of its golden anniversary, culminating with an afternoon of games, food, music, and demonstrations Saturday at the Senior Center. For us, it's a celebration of keeping up, Wilson said, at the significance of the Council's 50th anniversary. It's a celebration of the Council on Aging staying in touch with older adults in our community and continuing to evolve to meet their needs, because needs have evolved and we have evolved. Eleanor Blake, one of the Council's founders, had been a welfare worker for the town for many years, but recognized there was a greater need for more dedicated resources for the town's senior population. In May 1974, voters at the town approved articles to create the Council on Aging and provide it with its initial funding. The council rented space at 12 Main Street for its first few years of operation. In 1979, a land donation was made to the town of by Orleans resident Ruth Watson, and was made that eventually became the site of the Senior Center, which opened its doors in 1981. An addition was made to the building in 2000. For Wilson, was also led Council on Aging in Falmouth, Chatham, and Harwich. Senior services at first and foremost are about people. That's how she first became involved in the work, beginning with Elder Services of Cape Cod and the Islands when she moved to the Cape in the 1980s. I like older people, she said. I had a wonderful relationship with my grandmother growing up, and I just really liked it. That people-centric philosophy has driven the Council and Senior Center's work under Wilson's stewardship, and she said the Council and Senior Center have worked to creatively meet the changing needs of the town's senior population, which is one of the highest in the state. With that comes a recognition that the term senior today comprises many different things. Some people want exercise and fitness, while others enjoy the socialization offered through the center's programming. Everybody thinks that a senior citizen is a senior citizen, Wilson said, but 60 isn't 70, isn't 80, isn't 90. It's like a multi-generational group, which makes my job kind of exciting. We're really programming for different generations, not one generation. Others enjoying the informational discussions and sessions hosted and coordinated at the center, including some on subjects that Wilson said were once considered taboo. We now have programs on death and dying. We have programs on getting our affairs in order. People want to talk about it now. People didn't want to talk about it. One area that's been particularly a point of emphasis for the Council and Senior Center staff has been helping seniors better acclimate to using laptops, smartphones, and other day-to-day technology. The town is working on a digital equity plan designed to help bring seniors up to speed with using devices that have increasingly become essential. Wilson said the need for technological services became apparent with the start of COVID-19 pandemic, when vaccinations were first rolled out online. But some seniors in the community lack the experience with using computers and phones to do things such as register for events, make purchases, or make appointments, she said. My father is 84 years old. His barber retired, so he needs to get his hair cut. You need an appointment. How do you make an appointment now at the barber shop? Online. Statistics provided by the council show that efforts to engage and involve with local seniors are working. The council served a total of 1,194 seniors in fiscal 2024, a figure Wilson said does not include non-residents that also enlisted in the council services. The council also provided 4,354 bus rides and an additional 103 volunteer rides to seniors last year. Wilson said these figures show how the council and senior center need to keep planning for how to keep up with the demands of the local senior population in the future. All of us who work here probably won't be here in 15 years, so we want to make sure that we've done a good job looking where we are now and also in the future, she said. Discussions have been ongoing about the future of the senior center building, which has been subject to flooding in the past. Wilson said she doesn't see the need to expand the building's footprint, but talk around the construction of a new community center could offer an opportunity for the center and the council to grow into the future. It's about talking about a community center. We should be part of the conversation, she said. But while it's important to look ahead, Saturday represented an opportunity for staff and visitors to celebrate what's been accomplished through the council and center to date. The event included a chowder fest where 7 local restaurants competed for the bragging rights of best chowder in town. There were fitness demos, a bouncy house, and face painting for kids, live music courtesy of Sarah Burnhill and the Bart Weisman Jazz Trio. More than a celebration of the council and senior center, Wilson said last weekend's celebration was also about the many people continue to serve the town's seniors. Everybody loves their job. They love being here. We love people that we serve, and that's so important to me. That's everything. Local Fish Feeds Crew at Farm Aid by Tim Wood. Local seafood made its first appearance at the recent Live Aid concert at Saratoga Springs, New York, and was, by all accounts, a big hit. Brent Tolley of the Chatham Harvesters Co-op bought 600 pounds of monkfish tail to the festival, where it was fed to staff, crew, and musicians. Chefs who cooked the fish and those who ate it gave the monkfish a thumbs up, he said. They were raving about how delicious the monkfish was, Tolley said. We're really pleased with the reception. Farm Aid has been promoting family farms since 1985. Through his work with the North American Marine Alliance, Tolley has done advocacy work at the festival telling the stories of small boat fishermen and their families and relating those experiences to family farmers. We've been building a relationship with Farm Aid for the past 12 plus years. They really embraced us. This year, he was able to leverage those relationships with his work with the harvesters. Live Nation, the food service provided for Farm Aid, looked for locally and ethically sourced food for the event and reached out to ask what fish were in season. That resulted in 4 or 5 Chatham-based members of the Harvesters, including Doug Feely, Matt Hamilton, and Greg Connors, contributing the monkfish tails. Most of those spoke at Farm Aid had never tried monkfish, Tolley said. I would say they were very impressed at how fishy it tastes. The texture of monkfish is often compared to lobster, and Tolley said about a third of those he spoke with said they liked it better than the crustacean. He said he hoped the positive reception will lead to a relationship with Live Nation, which supplies food to current venues across the country. Although the Chatham fish wasn't available to concert goers, he said getting it to food vendors was a goal. I'd like to imagine a future where all big music events who work with Live Nation would be sourcing fish from us, he said. The Harvesters are hoping to convince more institutions like hospitals and schools to purchase locally caught seafood. This week, the group will make its first delivery to a local school after food service program at Truro Elementary School reached out. Tolley said he believes it's the first time that locally caught dogfish will be served to children in the area. We're super excited about that, he said, noting that the menu at the Chatham Elementary School, which his son attends, includes no fish at all, he hoped that the harvesters can convince other school systems to try their products. I feel like this is part of why our presence, our ability to pool our local catch, and pack it and distribute it, fills the gap in the supply chain that's existed for so long that most food service providers in schools and hospitals know it's possible. The harvesters have also been partnering with the Cape Cod Cooperative Extension and Sustainable Cape Cod to get fish into the local food pantries. This ensures that fishermen get a fair price for their catch and those in need can access high-quality seafood. He estimated the harvesters' products have gone into more than 5,000 meals, and we're just getting started. While he was able to network with farm aid staff and chefs, he said he didn't get to meet the concert's headliners. My hope was to get backstage and maybe bump into Willie Nelson or Neil Young, but it didn't happen. Nauset teacher wins innovation grant. Susanna Remillard takes learning out of the classroom by Ryan Bray. When John Simmons left Nauset Regional Middle School at the end of last year, it remained to be seen what would come of the popular adventure education program he oversaw for more than a decade. The course, which pushed beyond the boundaries of core subjects such as English, math, and science, challenged students to deepen their connection with nature. But for Susanna Remillard, the course was built so much in its vision that it was hard to replicate. John Sims was a powerful teacher. He brought so much of his own experiences to teaching, she said, and I think the kids really benefited from that. He was a voice of adventure, and he brought authentic life stories to the work that he was doing. But those aren't my stories, right? So I have to bring to the classroom and the work that I'm doing what I'm passionate about. Now in her second year at the middle school, Remillard has taken the helm on 2 new courses that carry on the spirit of adventure education, but in different ways. Earth Keepers teaches 7th grade students about the interconnectedness of the land and the lives as they live on, while Change Makers allows 8th graders the opportunity to use their skills and strength to actively promote good stewardship of the land. For her work, Remillard was recently awarded a 2000 grant through Voya's Financial Unsung Heroes program. More than $6 million has been awarded through the program to date in support of innovative teaching methods and creative education projects nationwide. Many of us have fond memories of the teachers, staff, and administrators who have encouraged, supported, and inspired us. These individuals are the best of the best and have made a meaningful difference in countless lives across our nation. Angela Harold, Voya's Chief Diversity and Corporate Responsibility Officer and President of the Voya Foundation, said in a statement. Remillard said Earth Keepers represents a new vision for place-based education. Using her ties to Wampanoag culture and history, the goal of the course is to help students recognize and understand their surroundings as one interconnected system, similar to the way the Wampanoag people have for 10,000s of years. Ultimately, we want students to see that when they care for and steward the smallest creatures and the earth and sky, and lands and plants are actually protecting the things that are nourishing them, she said. Earth Keepers lay the foundation for work that students will do at 8th graders in Change Makers. With a better understanding of what it means to be good stewards of their surrounding environment, Change Makers task students with using their interests and skills to create an action plan and to put that stewardship to work. We all knew that these are middle school kids, and they're doing a lot of identity work, Remillard said. Some of them are artists, some of them are photographers, some of them like to be on a soapbox, and they like to write. So how do you explore those different skills in what might be a change maker's toolbox? Students in Changemaker work on exercises such as argument mapping, persuasion, and visual storytelling. They also partner with local environment nonprofit agent groups for whom they are tasked with preparing and ultimately pitching an action plan to better protect the Nauset environment. Together, the courses offer not only the opportunity to fold core school subjects into more experiential settings, they also give students a chance to concretely put the things they've learned into action. Because we need to empower them, they've got a lot of environmental messes to clean up. Nauset Regional Middle School Principal Peter Cohn applauded Remilliard's work with the Earth Keepers and Changemaker courses, especially her ability to creatively interweave the school's curriculum into a place-based setting. She's just a wonderful educator. She's one of those people who makes their school a really wonderful place to learn, he said. Receipt of the $2,000 Boyer grant puts Remilliard in contention for additional grant funding. The national winners will be selected to earn an additional $5,000, $10,000, or $25,000 for their respective projects. The three winners are expected to be announced in late October or early November, Voya said in its release. For Remilliard, that additional funding would be used to help fund the creation of a wetu and garden in the area of the school's outdoor classroom space near Boland Pond. The project, which is being conducted alongside the Wampanoag tribe, is designed to be a space for ongoing education for students. Remilliard said that the plan to raise approximately $30,000 for the project, noting that the effort has already received $5,000 contribution from the Orleans Conservation Trust and the town of Orleans. We've got to raise a significant amount of money for this WATU, so we are in the process of grant writing and looking for private donors and things like that, because we want this outdoor learning space that's so real for the kids and a garden that would be awesome for our school. But beyond the grants, Remilliard said she's proud of the recognition innovative classes such as Earth Keepers and Changemakers are receiving, as well as support the courses have received from the Nauset community. It's just a recognition that kids need to be out there. They need to be experiencing. They need to be exploring, she said. Well, that's about all the time we have today. Thank you for listening. Once again, this has been Elliot at the Audible Local Ledger. Please enjoy the rest of your day, and see you next week.